Long before modern cities, before technology, before nations rose and fell, there was a people searching for freedom and hope. They were the Israelites, living in slavery in Egypt. For many years they cried out for help, and God heard their prayers through his servant Moses. God delivered them from bondage and led them into the wilderness. What happened next would become one of the most important moments in human history. At a mountain called Sinai, God gave Moses a message for his people. These words became known as the 10 Commandments. They were not simply laws, they were a guide for living. They were God's instructions for how people should love him and love one another, even today, thousands of years later. These commandments continue to teach us how to live with faith, wisdom, and compassion. After leading the Israelites out of Egypt, Moses brought the people to the foot of Mount Sinai. There, God called Moses up the mountain. The mountain was covered with clouds, thunder rolled across the sky. Lightning flashed, the people stood in awe. As Moses climbed higher and higher into God's presence, then God spoke, "I am the Lord your God, who brought you out of Egypt, out of the land of slavery." These words are important because before God gave commandments, he reminded his people that he had already rescued them. The 10 Commandments were not given to earn God's love. They were given because God already loved his people and wanted to guide them toward a better life. The first commandment teaches us to put God first. God alone deserves our worship, our trust, and our devotion. Nothing should take his place in our hearts. Today, idols may not be statues made of stone. They can be money, power, success, fame, or anything that becomes more important to us than God. This commandment challenges us to ask a simple question. What do we value most when God is first in our lives? Everything else finds its proper place. The second commandment teaches us to honor God's name. God's name is holy and should never be used carelessly, dishonestly, or disrespectfully. Our words have power. They can encourage or hurt, heal or destroy. When we speak about God, we should do so with reverence, sincerity, and respect. The third commandment reminds us to keep a holy day. For Christians, this is often observed on Sunday, a day dedicated to worship, rest, and renewal. In a busy world, people often feel exhausted and overwhelmed. God understands this. He created us not only for work, but also for rest. A holy day allows us to pause, spend time with God, strengthen family relationships, and refresh our minds and hearts. The fourth commandment teaches us to honor our father and mother. This commandment forms the foundation of healthy families and strong communities. Parents care for their children with love and sacrifice. In return, children are called to respect, appreciate, and care for their parents. Honoring parents means showing gratitude, listening with respect, and supporting them throughout life. The fifth commandment says, "You shall not kill." Human life is precious because every person is created in the image of God. This commandment calls us not only to avoid violence, but also to protect life, show kindness, and promote peace. Hatred, cruelty, and revenge can damage lives just as surely as physical violence. God calls us to be peacemakers, showing mercy and compassion wherever we go. The sixth commandment teaches faithfulness and purity. God designed relationships to be built on trust, respect, and commitment. True love is not selfish. It is patient, faithful, and sacrificial. This commandment encourages us to honor marriage, respect others, and maintain purity in both our actions and our thoughts. The seventh commandment says, "You shall not steal." This commandment protects fairness, honesty, and justice. Taking what belongs to someone else damages trust and harms relationships instead of stealing. God calls us to work honestly, share generously, and help those who are in need. Generosity creates stronger communities and reflects God's love. The eighth commandment teaches us to tell the truth. Honesty is essential for trust. Lies can destroy friendships, families, and communities in today's world, where information spreads quickly through social media and technology. Truthfulness is more important than ever. God calls us to be people whose words are trustworthy and whose actions reflect integrity. The ninth commandment warns against desiring another person's spouse. This commandment teaches respect for marriage and for the dignity of every human being. Love should never be driven by selfish desires or jealousy. Instead, we are called to value faithfulness, respect boundaries, and cultivate purity in our hearts. The 10th commandment says, "You shall not covet." Coveting means constantly wanting what belongs to someone else. It can involve money, possessions, success, relationships, or status. The problem with envy is that it steals our joy. When we constantly compare ourselves to others, we lose sight of the blessings already present in our own lives. God teaches us to be grateful, content, and generous. A thankful heart experiences peace. A jealous heart is never satisfied. Together, the 10 commandments provide a foundation for a healthy and meaningful life. They teach us to love God. They teach us to respect others. They teach us honesty, faithfulness, gratitude, self-control, and compassion. Many people see the commandments as a list of restrictions, but in reality, they are a path to freedom. They protect us from choices that lead to pain and guide us toward choices that lead to peace. Centuries after Moses received the commandments, Jesus Christ explained their deepest meaning. When asked about the greatest commandment, Jesus answered, "Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind." Then he added, "Love your neighbor as yourself." In these two statements, Jesus summarized the entire law. The first 3 commandments teach us how to love God. The remaining 7 teach us how to love our neighbors. Together, they reveal God's desire for humanity. He wants people to live in harmony with Him and with one another. The 10 commandments are not merely ancient words carved into stone. They are living principles that continue to guide millions of people around the world. They remind us to choose truth over lies, love over hatred, generosity over greed, faithfulness over selfishness, peace over violence, and gratitude over envy. As we reflect on these commandments, we can ask ourselves important questions. Do we place God first in our lives? Do we treat others with respect and kindness? Do our words reflect honesty and integrity? Do our actions demonstrate love and compassion? None of us lives perfectly. We all make mistakes. Yet God remains patient and merciful. He continually invites us to grow, learn, and become better people. The story of Moses and the 10 Commandments is ultimately a story about a loving God who guides His people, a God who rescues, a God who teaches, a God who calls humanity to a higher way of living. May we honor God with our hearts. May we love our neighbors as ourselves. May we walk in truth, faithfulness, and peace. And may the wisdom of the 10 Commandments continue to inspire us every day of our lives. Thank you for watching. May God bless you and your family. Amen.